All right, so I just rewatched the fourth quarter of Team USA versus Serbia, and my God, man, what a fucking game. One of the best basketball games I've seen in a while. The energy was crazy. The stakes were kind of crazy. How the game evolved was pretty crazy. And, you know, the inevitable, I just knew a Team USA comeback was around the corner, just didn't know when. Not gonna lie, I thought we were in trouble when, you know, the lead was cut down to 6 in the third quarter, and then Serbia extended the lead to like 11 or 13 heading into the fourth. But Team USA pulled it out 95-91. They are going to face France in the gold medal game. And I haven't really recorded anything about the Olympics so far, but there are just a few things I wanted to note in this game because this game was crazy. I actually did think, like I said, at some point we were in trouble in this game. Serbia just could not miss from 3. I actually thought the issue was to start the game. I thought Team USA's perimeter defenders were losing the shooters way too many times, getting killed on screens. I know people are going to kill Joel Embiid like they have blamed him for everything in these Olympics, which I will talk about in a second. They blamed it on his drop coverage, but I thought it was more so there were a few times where whether it was Steph, whether it was Booker, whether it was Drew Holiday, whether it was Anthony Edwards, who was really bad today in his minutes, I thought they lost too many shooters, and then that just snowballed into once they did lock on the shooters, it didn't matter at that point because they were on fire. Bogdanovic was fucking incredible in this game. Serbia could not miss. I thought they were never going to miss from 3 again. They were 15 of 39 from 3. Bogdanovic, even though he was 3 for 10 from 3, he hit like 3 big shots with those 3-pointers. And I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing his name, but Alexa Arvaromic was on fire, was 4 of 6 from 3. Dorbric was also on fire from 3. They got wide open shots off of handoff, shots in drop coverage, and then just shots just off of blown, missed assignments, losing track of the shooter. And I just thought, aside from Embiid, Kevin Durant at the end, LeBron, and Steph, Team USA was just really in trouble. Also, some weird decisions from Steve Kerr. I actually thought Jason Tatum would have been the perfect guy to play in this game just because Team USA needed some injection of length, athleticism, somebody to replace the Anthony Edwards hole, and unfortunately Derek White didn't do enough for me in those minutes. He only played 6 minutes, but I just thought they needed more length, size, and athleticism to contend with Serbia so they can get some, contest on these 3-pointers. Before I talk about Steph, LeBron, and KD and just the emotion, I'm sure a lot of basketball fans who are in my age, whether you're in your late 20s or mid to early 30s, in that era and what that represents, I wanted to talk about Joel Embiid really quick because he has just been getting slandered like no other in these Olympics. And I know the internet is just a bubble, but when you have actual media members first, and then obviously you got Twitter, Reddit, everybody is just frying this guy. Now look, Embiid definitely had an uneven exhibition or set of exhibition games. They played 5 exhibition games. I thought he was very uneven and was clearly trying to figure stuff out, but just the amount of slander he was getting, that talk about he couldn't fit, taking away possessions and all this other stuff. Even though I will say since the exhibition games, it's clear that 3-man sets with LeBron, Steph, and Embiid have absolutely been money for Team USA, even with Embiid playing bad in the exhibition games. He played bad in the group play game against Serbia, did not play obviously against South Sudan, was okay against Puerto Rico, but I thought these last 2 games in particular, he's been playing well, and people just won't acknowledge it, and I feel like a lot of people did acknowledge the plays he had today and his impact in this game. In the second quarter, he came in immediately, hit a mid-range jumper, hit a 3-pointer, had a defensive stop on Jokic on a floater, and eventually Team USA did cut the lead to 8, but then when you took him out again, the lead ballooned to 11, and then Team USA again in the third quarter, they cut it to 6, and then you put in Anthony Davis and Bam Adebayo, and all of a sudden the floor shrinks a little bit. There were times throughout this game where Serbia was playing a little bit of zone because they were sagging off of Adebayo too throughout this game. There was that one play where Adebayo took a corner 3, which was just not the right time for that type of shot. But Serbia ballooned it back to 11. It was 70 to 78 Serbia when Kevin Durant hit a three where Jokic pushed Anthony Davis into Kevin Durant, and it was a foul. Also count the bucket. Embiid checks in and starts a personal 7-0 run by himself. It was 75-84 when Embiid hit a mid-range jumper over Jokic. Then obviously there was a string of offensive rebounds where, if you want to nitpick Embiid again, because there is some red meat always for people who, whether they don't like Embiid's game or just want to get in on the slander or whatever, there was a time where he allowed 4 offensive rebounds, though one of them was not his fault. I don't think it was just a bad bounce that bounced off of LeBron then through Embiid. But Embiid did have a personal 7-0 run. He had that jumper to make it 75-84. Then he had that and one where LeBron caught him on a little switch. They tried to hedge on a LeBron Embiid pick and roll, and then LeBron lofted it over to the top, and Embiid got an and one. And then Embiid had his classic face up on the left block, or I guess the right block actually, but faced Jokic up and then leaned back and hit his patented mid-range jumper. And Embiid, for a 3-minute stretch, because after that bucket, Embiid also got a block, which was blocked out of bounds, and then USA ended up getting the eventual stop, and then Captain L'America, which, by the way, ironically ended up being one of the coldest nicknames that's been created. Captain L'America is actually really good, but LeBron ends up getting the layup in transition to tie it at 86. So I just want to give a shout out to Embiid there, because I'll just flat out say it. Team USA does not win this game without Joel Embiid's contributions. And you can nitpick some of the stuff he fucked up at in this game. Forgot to mention that turnover he had when it was, I believe it was 86-84 Serbia, and he bounced it off his knee. He had some turnovers in this game, but when you compare it to everybody else, that's just nitpicking. They do not win this game without Joel Embiid's contributions. He was, obviously LeBron guarded Jokic quite a bit in that fourth quarter, but Embiid guarded Jokic for a lot of that game as well. And I thought, he was the only guy of size to actually bother Jokic a little bit. And by the way, Jokic's three-pointer, I'm going to keep tracking that, because it feels like, basically since they won the championship in 2023, it just feels like Jokic's three-point shot has been off, and this guy has one of the best touches I have ever seen in my life. And there are times where Jokic shoots well from three for stretches of a season or whatever. There's seasons where he shot 37-38%. But just for whatever reason, that jumper from three at least just seems off. And he was 0 of 6 from three today. Team USA, I thought, was willing to live with Jokic shooting some of those threes. Embiid would pop out, to hedge the screen or get up to the level, or even switch in the second half, which is another thing they did in Brazil, by the way. They had Embiid switch more in the second half. But Jokic would get these open threes, and they were just willing to let him shoot, get a light contest in. There's just something's off with his three-pointer, and that's something I'm going to track going into next season. But anyway, great Team USA defense leads to LeBron in transition, tying the game at 84. Then Petrosev gets a two-pointer off of... There was a lot of gambling today off of Jokic, and that's part of Anthony Edwards' bad game. He had a bad gamble. LeBron had a bad gamble on Jokic, which led to an open shot. But Jokic found Petrosev under the basket, 86-84. And then Steph Curry comes around the corner. Bone-crunching screen by Embiid. I've watched a lot of Joel Embiid. That is one of the best screens I have ever seen Joel Embiid set. And that led to a Steph Curry three-pointer that almost rattled out, by the way, but rattled in. And more great defense from Team USA. They get the stop. They are able to successfully play the cat and mouse game with Jokic on the next possession. Durant was on him. It was either Durant or LeBron, and they ended up playing the two-man game that was happening between Jokic and I believe Petrosev. And they were able to get a steal. KD was able to force a steal, and LeBron got in transition again. And what do you know? Layup, 89-86. Shout out to Devin Booker, by the way, because all Olympics, he has been asked to do a lot of different things. He has filled in a lot of the gaps. between the starting lineup and whatever lineup he plays in. And that LeBron, Steph, Booker, KD, Embiid lineup just was massive in this game. Steph gets the steal, 91-86. And I really do need to emphasize Steph Curry's performance was incredible. The only reason Team USA was in that game in the first quarter, at one point Steph was outscoring Serbia. The man was just on fire. He had that signature corner three where he turned around and looked at the bench. Classic Steph Curry. Finally broke out. I knew he was going to have a shooting progression to the mean rather than, stinking it up shooting wise like he has been all Olympics. And then Kevin Durant closes it out at the end after Serbia cut it to 2 again. Just the 3 guys from this era carrying the country on their back. By the way, with Embiid carrying the country on his back for a good 3 minutes of that game and in the third quarter, and also tried to bring them back from that deficit in the second quarter. Forgot to mention the nasty baseline dunk he had after he pump faked on Nikola Jokic, and also I simultaneously passed out because I thought with the way Embiid landed, I thought he hurt himself, but thank God that wasn't the case. Every time Embiid left, every time Embiid and Durant left, or Embiid, LeBron, Steph, whatever, USA struggled. The lead would balloon. It was just a wild game, man. Those 4 guys saved Team USA's ass today because Anthony Edwards was not great. Anthony Davis was so-so, but was also in foul trouble trying to guard Jokic. Bam, they would just sag off of Bam, and Serbia kind of did like a hybrid zone type of thing. They were really effective at keeping Team USA out of the paint. USA at one point, I think at halftime, Kirk Goldsberry had the tweet, but 61% of Team USA shots came from 3-point land, and I just think that's way disproportionate. Drew Holiday had some weird decision making. There was one possession where he was in transition, had either a layup or Anthony Edwards on the pass for a layup, but decided to pass it behind him to Steph for a wide open 3. And at that point, Team USA was down like 10. Just some weird stuff in this game from other players, not named LeBron, Steph, Embiid, and even Durant was, coming out of the gates cold, but then in the fourth quarter, he obviously tightened up a little bit. And also just a weird decision from Steve Kerr not to play Jason Tatum. That was questionable. I thought he took a little bit too long to find the optimal lineup, which was clearly, Steph, Booker, KD, LeBron, Embiid. So there's definitely some stuff to clean up. I feel like this France game will be interesting for a bit, but I think Team USA got their scare. Obviously, I think they're going to win gold, but that matchup will be interesting nonetheless. It's kind of a strength on strength because France has size. The USA also has size. So we'll see how it goes on Saturday. Hopefully it's a fun game, but woo. If you're like me and rooting for Team USA, that was too close for comfort. But as they say, when your team unexpectedly wins, never in doubt.